Hi, everyone, and welcome to our BookTrib live chat. We're so excited today to welcome USA Today bestselling and award-winning author Tina Leonard. Tina, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tina has sold more than 3 million copies of her books. Tina, I think I counted, you're on over 70 now, right? Or close to
Over
that?
70. Yes.
Right. And she's here today to talk about her book, Heart of a Bull Rider, and some of the other stories that she's been working on. And we want to let everyone who's watching know that they can enter to win a copies of the book along with 3 of her other books about bull riders. One Wild Bull Rider, The Bull Riders Twins, and A Family for the Bull Rider. So make sure to enter to win on BookTrib.com after the chat. And these are all professional bull riders collector's editions, and they feature real-life PBR riders on the covers and Q&As inside, which is really fun. And I've got Reese Cates here looking over my shoulder. So Tina, for those of you who are not familiar, for those of us who are not familiar with the Heart of a Bull Rider, can you tell us a little bit about the story before we break into questions from the viewers?
It's a story about 2 men who didn't realize that they were related, and I wanted to explore the idea of 2 people that had grown up in vastly different worlds, and how could they build a relationship when they'd never known of each other.
So we have a lot of great questions from people tuning in. Kate wants to know, when you're writing a romance novel, what would you say is the hardest part to write about? Why do you think this is?
I don't find a whole lot of hard things in writing. It's all very organic to me, and I've been very blessed to have a lot of good ideas, and my readers very fortunately are um, receptive. If I have a hard part, it's letting go of a book when I'm writing it. I'm very much a perfectionist and like to kind of hold on to the stories and the people that I've created as long as possible. So I have to just recognize that I need to let it go eventually.
Um, Kate is also wondering, you are a USA Today bestselling author. What's it been like knowing that you've sold nearly 3 million books? Sure, it's a good feeling.
It's it's a good feeling. It's exciting. I'm just really grateful that readers find something in my work that they respond to and enjoy. I really appreciate them believing in my career.
Mm. Audrey's asking, how do you come up with names for your fictitious towns? Is there a method to the process?
I try to be very, it's interesting to me to find a town that sort of speaks to what's going on in the story. And sometimes that happens because I'm out driving somewhere and I see something interesting and it's the right title at the right time. And sometimes I change it several times. I can't quite come upon it. And then it just, somehow or another, it all works out. And that's, it's just a very organic process.
Susan's asking, how did you feel on release day? Is it nerve-wracking?
I'm always excited. It's like having a party in a way. You want everyone to, you hope that they're excited about your work, and never, it's never a dull moment. It's something I very, very much look forward to, and I've been fortunate that the readers seem to be excited on release day and celebrate with me.
We've got a great question from Felicity. She's wondering, if being an author was no longer an option, what career path would you choose?
I always thought I was going to be a buyer on the East Coast. I was in buying before that. I don't know what I would do at this point. It's just such a part of me. I think they're going to have to take the keyboard from me and tell me it's over when I'm, 100 or something.
So getting into that, what sort of made you decide that you wanted to get into writing?
My grandmother asked me to, and I thought she was crazy, but I did what she wanted me to do, and she saw something in my work that I did not see, and it was one of those wonderful, wonderful things to find out that I actually had something that meant so much to me that I've been doing it for 20 years, and there's not a day that I don't go by that isn't a good thing for me.
Right, right. Amy's wondering, which character in the Bull Rider series would you say has been your favorite to write?
Oh, I liked them all. They were such good. You mean in the PBR Bull Rider series?
I think that's what she's asking, yes.
I think my favorite might have been One Wild Bull Rider. But it's hard to say. I
Like
liked
picking a favorite
Aberdeen and
child, right?
Creed. Yeah, well, it's just there were Aberdeen and Creed were good characters, but so many of the stories, I was fortunate my editors just let me kind of write and bring stories to life that I believed in, and so I can't really say that there was more of a favorite of one than the other.
On the opposite side of things, is there one that was a least favorite or sort of more challenging to write than the others that you had, difficulty with?
I did not have I have really not had a whole terrible lot of difficulty with it. It's exciting to write about families and people that obviously that's not a world I have lived in to speak of, but it's interesting. I like just their. I had known lots of bull riders, not in the PBR, but when we were growing up, there were boys in our class that enjoyed that and tried their hand at it. And it was just something that I guess I enjoyed writing about. So it wasn't ever a hard thing.
Right. So Lexi's wondering, do your leading med come from a place in particular, maybe from people that you see on the street or in dreams that you have?
No, it's all something that creatively comes to me, and there is nothing in my writing that speaks to anybody that I've ever met or known as far as, oh, I'm writing about, John Wayne or something like that. And it's just, no, it's just that whatever's in the story, it's integral to that.
Felicity's wondering, how long did it take you to write this book? Do you find it easier to write now versus when you first started out?
It's probably easier now because I'm published. In the beginning, you don't know whether or not you're going to be published. And I wrote, I think, 8 books before I was ever published. And so you're going on faith. It's much more exciting and easy when you know that your work is going to be published.
Sort of going along with that, Emily Santo was wondering, any advice for aspiring authors?
Just keep writing. I know that sounds so cliche, and everybody says that, but the honest truth is, I read my fellow contemporary authors every day. I find more that to learn and admire about it, and so it seems like the more I read, the better I find myself improving. So there's just no way that reading what's out there and writing constantly it's going to help you. The writing that I do now is so vastly different from what I did when I was starting out. So even you see growth and change. Mm-hmm. So that would be my advice, is to just keep at it and believe in yourself.
Right. That kind of goes along with Lexi's question. She asked, when you're writing a book, do you avoid reading anything else so as not to influence you? Do you find that reading other people's stories has any sort of impact in guiding the storyline one way or the other? Or
I do stay away from reading my fellow writers on the line at the time that I am writing, just so that I don't accidentally pick up something. And I tend to stay out of that genre.
Okay. Allie's asks, there's an awful lot of sexy going on in these books. Are you ever shy about writing those romance scenes?
No, I'm not. And I'll tell you why. My mother is the one who told me, and she's been gone for many years now, but my mother called me up one day and she said, Tina, you're not putting enough in these books of what the ladies want to see. And at that point, I realized that I needed to be not as shy about it. And so after that, I never thought about it again. I like writing about marriages and, sensuality and sex and good relationships goes along with a happy marriage and relationship. So I don't know, it never crosses my mind anymore.
Right, and it's relatable too. Kristen's wondering, are you present for any of the cover photo shoots, especially the Bull Rider ones?
I have not gotten to do that, and I've always wanted to, but I think they are most of the books that for especially for Harlequin, I think they must be doing the art up in Canada or New York, and so no, I don't get to see. I don't even see it until it's done and gone to bed, and then I get a copy of it.
Emily Santo is wondering, what's your writing process? How did the book get from idea to something submission worthy?
I sit down with something and I work on it for quite some time. It may be 4 years before I ever get it pulled together the way I want it, before I send it out. I sit down with some, what is it that I want to talk about this time? What is it I want to tell? What story is on my, in my heart to tell? And the characters seem to come from that, but it takes me a while. I'm not a fast proposal writer, so when I've worked on something, it's usually been something that I'm really confident is going to be able to sustain interest, and the readers hopefully are going to want to read it.
When you're writing, do you sort of have one book going on at a time from start to finish, or do you have multiple stories going on at once?
I have multiple. I do write for several houses, and so I may have several things that are in the hopper, but I dedicate myself to that story at that time for those days that I'm writing it.
Okay. Alex has got a good question. If we snuck into your office, what would we find on your desk?
Well, it would not be the most exciting thing you ever saw. I don't have an office. I sit at my kitchen table, and so it's not really a kitchen table anymore. It's more of my office space. There's my my laptop, and some spirals and pens, and when I'm not in there, I'm sitting on my sofa with the dogs and the family members, and I write in there too. So those are my two spots, but I do not have a dedicated office anymore. I used to, but laptops have made that something that's not necessary anymore.
Right. Unless you be comfortable wherever you are.
That's right.
Kristen's asking, yeah. Kristen is asking, since starting out, have you seen a big change in your fan base?
I've been fortunate that so many of my readers have stayed with me for so many years. I feel like it's growing, and it's in some ways it's getting younger, but to speak of, I have been very, very fortunate to have very loyal readers.
And for Allie's wondering, for someone who might not have read any of your books yet, what would you say to them that would attract readers the most? What's stands out about your writing style?
Come read about family, come read about fun and good people that want to, fall in love, make a difference in the world, and basically they're just basically us, except they're just in a book.
Right. Kristen's wondering, who are some of your writing influences?
I love, you mean contemporary or from the past?
Both.
Or I have always enjoyed the writing of Lori Foster, Carly Phillips, Tony Blake, Jill Shalvis, Meredith Wild. Any of those are wonderful writers. Jennifer Cruzy was a wonderful, well, I don't know what she's got coming out now. I don't mean to say that she doesn't have anything. She's a wonderful writer too. From the past, Jane Austen, Laura Ingalls Wilder, any of those where you draw inspiration from people who have written and have in different time periods, and how they struggled to it wasn't any easier, I don't think, back then to be published than it is now.
That's a good point. Alex is asking, when you walk into a bookstore, where do you head first?
I head for the romance section and start there and then work my way over to the different. It depends too. If my kids are with me, they're dragging me over. One wants to read philosophy and the other one wants to read, the Twilight or whatever it's popular at the time. So there's just,
Right.
I'm a reader. I want to read everything. I'm pretty much an insomniac, so I read it all. And if I'm in the bookstore, that's like heaven. I'm going to be in there a long time.
Right. Felicity's asking, what's something on your to-be-read stack? I'm sure you don't get a lot of free time to read on your own, but is there something that you've been dying to read lately?
I am anxious for the new Meredith Wild book to come out in September. And then some of my friends that I mentioned previously have some books coming out that I'm anxious to read. And then I do read other outside of the genre, so just that's what's in my to be read stack. But anything by Tony Blake and Jill Shalvis and Lori Foster and Carly Phillips, I'm that's just auto buy for me.
Right. Becca's wondering, what do you do in your downtime, if you do have any?
Downtime, I have dogs and kids, but I've been spending a lot of time with the dogs lately. I'm babysitting my son's Catahoula this summer while he's in Europe, and that's been an exciting. That's taking up some time. I haven't had a puppy in a while.
Right.
And this morning he found a little rabbit warren, so we had some things to clean up. So it's just, it's never ending when you have a little puppy.
Oh, right, I'm sure. Emily Santo is asking, how active are you on social media? Do you think it's an important part of the process these days?
I do. I think it's so much fun to connect with the readers. That's one of my favorite parts. I have 2 Facebook pages and a Twitter and then some other things too. But it's just nice to be able to talk to readers and get to know them better. I mean, so many of them have amazing talents and they're smart and funny, and that's really one of my favorite parts. I have an assistant that helps me with it because there's a lot of it, but by and large, that's something I try to stay very involved with. Social media is important, and it made it so much different. It's different now than it was before. The only way you met a reader was if you did a signing, and now you can meet lots of readers, and so that's exciting.
Do you find it sort of difficult to keep up with? I know there's a lot coming at you all the time, and just kind of responding to everyone, it must be time-consuming.
I think I'm very blessed that I have a wonderful assistant, and she tries to keep me very organized, and that's helpful because there is a lot. I'm very fortunate that she keeps me pretty much straight. And everybody that I work with is nice anyway. They're very forgiving if I forget something, or they remind me if I'm supposed to be doing something. So that's been helpful. Everybody I work with is really nice, so that makes it easy.
Right, that's great. Chase is asking you to describe the Bull Rider series in 4 words. Putting you on the spot.
The Bull Rider series in 4 words: brave, sexy, fun, family committed.
That works. Will you have, Kate's wondering, will there be other books about bull riders in the future?
I don't know what Harlequin's got planned. I'm not privy to those decisions, and I have no idea. I hope so. I hope that they'll be able to continue with it. I think it's a lot of fun. I felt like there were a lot of readers that were very interested in it, but that's a completely, that's between Harlequin and the PBR, so I'm sort of just the lowly writer here on that one.
Going along with that, what Susan's asking, what's next for you? Can you tease anything that you're working on right now? I know you have some fun books coming out shortly.
I Oh, yes, I do have the final book in the Bridesmaids Creek series that will be coming out. That's Daisy's story. So that's July. And then I have some other things coming out after that. But that will finish up the 4-book Bridesmaids Creek series. And then I don't know what happens after that for that particular publisher.
We'll have to stay tuned. We can't wait.
That's right.
Lexi's wondering, kind of a fun question here, what are the top 5 snacks while writing? They can include drinks too, she says.
Oh my goodness, top 5. Okay, herbal tea,
Okay.
fresh juice, popcorn, really bad with the granola bars, and I have things in the house that are made for me, my chilaquiles and things like that. I'm not sure that the audience would know what those types of things are, but jicama and pico de gallo and chilaquiles
Yes.
and things like that. So that's my manna.
Those are all good writing fuel.
Yes.
Marley's wondering sort of how all these 4 books here feature real-life professional bull riders. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came to be in sort of the the presence of PBR in these books?
When I wrote them, they were not related to PBR. That came up this year. It was just bull riders, and I wrote about bull riders because that's where some of the guys that I hung out with in high school. To me, the FFA boys were the interesting guys. They were my friends, and so I guess that was just the natural thing to write about. But at the time, I don't even know if there was PBR back then. I mean, it wasn't as glamorous and more and as well known as it is now.
Right. Marley was also wondering if you know if any of the bull riders have read any of your books.
I don't know, but I will say that one of their wives did an interview, and I don't know if she had read them either, but I thought that was interesting. I mean, because obviously I never talked to the bull riders, and they don't talk to me, but it was fun to get to know something of their, from somebody in there that was a female, a wife, or that, and I think they had young kids too. So it was fun to get to see that perspective of a world that I really am not, I do not know any PBR writers personally.
Right. Definitely. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Tina, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today, and I want to remind everyone that's watching that you can enter to win copies of Tina's books on BookTrib, so do not forget to enter. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
Take care, Tina.
Thank you.